Welcome to the Town Council meeting of Monday, November 6th. It's just after 7 p.m. here in Council Chambers. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Councillor Auclair.
Present.
Councillor Carrasco.
Present.
Councillor Clements.
Present.
Councillor DePietro.
Excused. Notified us.
Councillor McKenzie.
Notified us. He's excused.
Councillor Miena.
Delayed.
Councillor Morales.
Present.
Councillor Nash.
Present.
Councillor Steve.
Present.
6 present, 2 excused, 1 delayed.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3, consider and accept the Town Council meeting minutes of October 30th, 2017.
So move. Second.
Any corrections, additions? Concerns, Councilor Nash?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, just one word I kind of caught and thought maybe we might consider changing is under agenda item number 2, second line, councilors detained. I'd prefer that say delayed.
Oh, right.
Again, agenda item number 2,
That makes sense.
sentence ends Steve's, then begins councilors detained. I'd prefer that word be delayed. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor, hand vote. It's unanimous. 6. Subcommittee summaries, relevant minutes to be read at each agenda item. 4A, general government.
Yes, we had a meeting on Thursday the 2nd. There were a bunch of issues that are on our current agenda, so I will get to them when we get to them. And we do tentatively have a meeting scheduled for Wednesday the 15th, although I know Yvonne left me a message, so that might change.
Agenda 4B, Department of Public Works.
I have those too, since Mark's not here and I took them. There was a meeting there also on November 2nd. Several of the other items on tonight's agenda are from that meeting, so I'll read them when we get to them too. And don't have anything scheduled at the moment that I know of.
4C, Education Human Services. Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, no meeting minutes that have yet been approved because our meeting for last week was canceled. I'll reschedule. That is not set as of yet. Thank you.
And 4D, Planning and Development, Councilor Auclair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I still owe the council the minutes from our last meeting, but I do not have any new minutes and I do not have any meetings scheduled. Thank you.
Okay. And 4E is Protection of Persons and Property. That's Councilor Manna. She is not here at this time. Okay. We'll move on to Chairman's announcements. I have a few. First, Halloween was Tuesday evening, last Tuesday, and I just want to thank the police department and all who made sure that our youth were well protected, and all the citizens in Southbridge. In particular, I had gotten a message from some concerned parents on South Street, and the police responded very quickly and made sure that everyone was safe for crossing and making sure the speeders were well taken care of. So I want to thank them for their quick response. It's a difficult evening. I know that the chief said there were many extra officers on duty that evening. So kudos to all. And to the Board of Health for what I heard was a wonderfully attended event down on the Common.
There were hundreds of kids in there.
Hundreds of children learning all about immunization and many other really important items, health-related items. So the Board of Health is already looking towards and for new ideas for next year to incorporate here into the community. See, I would like to note the Southbridge Casbon Senior Center has many things going on. I've said that before, and I would just like to say it again. They have lunch available Monday through Friday at 11:30 a.m., provided by the Tri-Valley Nutrition Services. That's a $3 donation, and it's 48 hours in advance for reservations. Today was their monthly luncheon, the monthly seniors luncheon. If you want to become a member of the group that goes and has lots of fun activities, and they go on trips and do their monthly luncheons and Christmas parties and all that, that's only $5 a year to participate and be part of the association. You really should get involved, or if you know a senior who's doesn't have a whole lot to do, to have them get involved. Encourage them to get to our senior center up at the community center on Chestnut Street. It's a really wonderful group that meets, and bingo, everything under the sun. So I highly encourage you seniors to get involved, and for more information to contact the community center. I'm going to make a mention that the Southbridge Business Partnership, in collaboration with Sturbridge and Southbridge, are going to hold a breakfast. It's being sponsored by the Southbridge Business Partnership and the Sturbridge Tourist Association in conjunction with Rosemary Scrivens, our Director of Economic Development, and Kevin Filchek, the Economic Development and Tourism Coordinator of Sturbridge. It is going to be a joint breakfast meeting of the two business communities. They're going to focus on sharing information for various key business resources by expert speakers from local and state organizations, and whether you need non-traditional financing, a business plan, update, workforce training, funds, or something else, these speakers will help you prepare. There will be staff members from the towns of Sturbridge and Southbridge to provide updates on initiatives that might be interesting to all of you. The event is December 5th from 8 to 9:30 a.m. It's at Fins and Tails in Southbridge, and they ask that you RSVP by November 28th to Rosemary Scrivens here at the town of Southbridge. You can email, you can give a phone call to 508-764-5402. That is the Economic Development Office. And again, please RSVP by November 28th, and the event is December 5th. I also want to make a note, received a memo recently, and I think that many people are interested in this. Our Board of Health has been very proactive on a landfill issue. It came up in terms of testing wells again. You remember last year we tested a number of wells that were not in the normal package of wells that needed to be tested around the landfill. And a lot of concerned citizens on Pleasant Street and the surrounding area of the airport and the landfill, and the Board of Health at the time had those wells tested. They have decided, they took a vote to, once again, at the August 24th meeting, the Board of Health voted to repeat the testing of those private wells on Upper Pleasant and Upper Clements Hill Road to determine if they contain any additional observations other than from 216, if anything's changed, gotten worse, gotten better, and that the budget requirement is going to cost $2,400, and the Board of Health is going to absorb that through their budget. So I'm sure that will be something that many are interested in. If you have any questions or comments on that, you can certainly contact the Board of Health in the Andy Pelletier, the Director of Inspections. So this Friday, many of you realize, and hopefully all of you realize, that it's Veterans Day, Friday, November 11th. It has been recognized as a federal holiday since May 13th, 1938. Yeah. Oops, sorry, excuse me, Saturday, November 11th, typo. It has been recognized since May 13th, 1938, when it was officially passed, although it was a resolution by Congress in 1926 to observe that date. It became a legal holiday in 1938. It's also known as Armistice Day, and it is dedicated to the cause of world peace. And that is the anniversary of the signing of the armistice that ended World War I and the conflict between the Allied nations and Germany in 2018. I just want to encourage all of you to take the opportunity to thank a vet, whether you know them or not. Maybe you pass somebody and you realize they're a vet, and take the time, stop, thank them for their service. Also, take the time to talk to your children. Remind them of the sacrifices that have been made by those now and before, and all the armed forces that protect our lives, that protect the lives of the United States and keep them safe and free. So take a moment that day yourself, reflect on what this means to you and how fortunate we are in the United States with all that is going on in the world today. There will be a number of observances locally, and we will have our Veterans Director, Mike Trombley, will speak to that during the presentations. And that's all I have for this evening. Town Manager's announcements next.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. First, I want to congratulate the Visions Committee. I know that the chair has worked really hard in working with the Visions Committee to get out all the Christmas decorations. It's kind of nice to see them beginning to peak out, although it looks a little early to me, but it's great to see all the work and all the people that just are really dedicated to that cause. It's great. And I happen to be on vacation away out of state this week, and so I didn't get a chance to be part of that, but it's great to see all the people involved. So I think that's wonderful.
I'm going to interrupt you if I may.
Sure.
Great. You made a comment, and it does get commented, and I have to say we're probably 90% positive comments with a few comments of the "it's way too early." We apologize for that. However, it takes a lot of time, energy, and muscle strength, and we take the volunteers when we can get them. And we got them this weekend, and we will get them a little bit more to finish. We're not completed yet. But this is all in preparation. While Santa comes December 25th, he also comes here November 25th this year. Saturday, November 25th, he will come down Main Street, much to the joy of many, and light the Christmas tree, which will now be placed on the vacant lot this year because it's gotten too big to go into the lot at the bank. And then they'll proceed down to the Common. We'll have our annual event down there with music and goodies. And this year we have llamas and activities for the kids. So that is why we must start as early as we do. And we're blessed with a beautiful day to make that happen. And then on Sunday, thank you, Councilor Morales, for coming out on Sunday. We are very, very fortunate. We had the Student Council, I forgot to mention, and the National Honor Society kids, Sheila Jalbert, and as well as, oh goodness, I don't want to forget her name. There was another teacher that came, and I don't have her name right in front of me, but it was Kelly Landon. So thank you, Kelly Landon and Sheila Jalbert, for bringing the kids out at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning to help us. So I don't mean to take up your time. I will let you go, but it was important to know because people do comment, and it's a shame. Negativity should be put aside because this is a positive event, and I hope that you will put your negativity aside and just embrace it.
Madam Chairman, let me first be clear, I'm not negative at all, because
Oh,
I
not you.
recognize, I know, I
Just
recognize.
in reference to some comments that have
And
been
I
made.
recognize how much work it is, because I've seen the process live, and a lot of people are involved. That's why I wanted to go out of my way to thank you
Yeah,
and the
no,
group
I
for doing what they
appreciate
did.
that.
And frankly, it's a nice thing to see, although it reminds me snow is coming, which is not a great thing to me. I also want to, I know that I did it last week, and I'm starting to feel like I can't do enough. I want to thank our fire department and our police department. It's been a rough last week or so with those guys, and they've done an outstanding job. And I know people have read it in the newspaper, and it's sad that we're facing these difficulties around overdoses. But Chief, I got to tell you, and nice to see in the audience, you guys did a phenomenal job, and I want it to be recognized. We appreciate the work you and the fire department are doing. And I hope those people whose lives you saved appreciate it and hopefully learn something about what happened. I can't believe the kind of situation you guys are under, and I'm not sure I could handle that kind of situation. So thank you for all you guys are doing. Just a note, I'm going to be bringing to the General Government Subcommittee, all of a sudden I'm getting a little bit of interest in 70 Foster Street again. So I'm going to be bringing probably a proposal to the General Government Committee to consider potentially putting that again out for a request for proposals. And we'll see what the committee thinks, but I want you to know, I think the chair was going to be, the secretary was going to call the chair today. She may not get a hold of you to talk about putting that on your agenda.
Oh, okay. She did leave me a message, but you didn't specify why.
So that's why. So we want to look at that issue again. I've had 2 and maybe 3 different people approach me on that issue, so I think we need to relook at that once again. I guess I had one more item. It wasn't real important, but I wanted to mention it. But oh yeah, we had I had the opportunity today to be at a facilities meeting of the school system at the high school with Andre Townsend. And I wanted to thank Councilor Nash and Councilor Morales today. Actually supported and sponsored a meeting between the staff and the principal at the high school, and I thought it went extremely well. So I wanted to thank the 2 counselors for that. I know Kristen O'Clair was also there, Councilor O'Clair. And it was nice to see the cooperation and the spirit of working together among our school system, particularly the high school level. So I appreciate all you guys are doing to support their efforts. It goes along with a wonderful job, and we're seeing positive news come out of the school system as it relates to testing. So it's nice to see that productivity happening, and we're on our way. It's going to be a slow path, but I think we're on the right path, and I'm looking forward to seeing that continue. And that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is swearing in and presentations, and as I said, we have Mike Trombley, our Veterans Director, who will update us on all that is going on locally in regard to Veterans Day.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I thought I saw that.
What's wrong?
There's a bat flying.
We have a bat.
Is this on?
I'll get it.
Yeah, it's on.
Is this coming through?
Hit him with a hammer.
Oh, he's a good size baby, isn't he?
I
Okay.
don't think there's much we can do about it, so,
Maybe he'll learn something while we're.
I think
We'll
he
just
just
keep
went to the
going.
manager's office.
yeah, let's just keep
That's good. We can close the door.
We always need people involved in politics.
Yeah.
Do you think you can work around the bat, Mr. Trombley? Let's just do it.
I don't think it'd
We're
be a
res-
problem for myself.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to come here tonight. In chatting with the town manager a few weeks ago, Mr. Santangelo asked me if I would come forward to let you know what's happening over the next week in the veterans community in Southbridge and a couple of the area towns. Quite actually, our event schedule for the whole week, running right up till Saturday, began this noontime. Harrington Memorial Hospital and the Hotel Conference Center, who has annually provided us with a Veterans Appreciation Luncheon, took place today at noontime at the Hotel Conference Center. It was well attended. We had approximately 80 people attend the event. Our guest speaker was Senator Ann Goby, and everybody appreciated what took place, and it was a very, very nice event. So that was today. It appears that almost every day this week we are involved with something, whether it's with the Veterans Council, local veterans, Boy Scouts, students at the schools, and I'd like to give you a rundown of what's happening. I got a phone call later, very late this afternoon, from, pardon me, I can't remember his last name. I believe he's the principal at the Eastford Road School. Eastford Road School would like to do something at 145, which Eastford Road, I believe, is kindergarten and first grade students. They're not going to do an open to the public type ceremony, but they asked me to be present. The kids are putting together all kinds of cards that I will eventually send off to the Soldiers Home up in Holyoke. So I promised them that I would try to get in there sometime Wednesday, later in the afternoon, to meet with the kids and also get those cards. Wednesday, veterans in the tri-community are invited to the Masonic Home. The Masonic Home each year does a ceremony at 10 a.m. At 11 a.m., the Charlton Senior Center has another Veterans Day ceremony, which begins at 11 with entertainment and a dinner. Then on Thursday morning, for the first time that I can remember in my 25 years with the town, West Street School is going to do a Veterans Day ceremony. And I think that's derived from the fact that all the years that we've attended, when I say we, I'm talking about local veterans and Veterans Council members who have attended Charlton Street School. When I've made my comments, I've always seemed to make a comment saying it's too bad that this doesn't stretch out to other schools in the system. And evidently, somebody heard what I said last year at Charlton Street, and finally West Street is going to put a program together. It begins at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. They're going to have a small breakfast for veterans, and then their program begins at 9:30. Then at 1:15 on Thursday afternoon, Charlton Street School once again does their annual Veterans Day program, which lasts a couple hours. And as you know, Madam Chair, you've been there, the town manager's been there, other council members have been there, and they do a wicked, wicked good job. So that takes care of Thursday. And to close out the week, on Saturday, Boy Scout Troop 160 from Southbridge plans to camp out the Boy Scouts early Saturday morning down at the gazebo area in front of the police station. And they're going to have a camp over on Saturday night. At 2 p.m. on Saturday, the Southbridge Veterans Council, along with any other veterans that want to be present, will present the flag folding and flag burning ceremony. When the United States flag is no longer usable due to its condition, whether it be torn or tattered or discolored, it's no longer service. There is a proper disposal ceremony. And we've done this with the Boy Scouts on several other occasions, and we were asked to do it again this year. That's about a 90-minute program. So we will be doing that on Saturday. So for the rest of this week, it's a little bit busy for veterans. We don't have any parades. We don't have any humongous ceremonies. We hold that together for Memorial Day the best that we can. But with the declining age of our veterans, like any other community, our numbers are shorter and shorter each year. So we do the best that we can with what we have. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's wonderful. Sure, Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, it's not a question, but Mr. Trombley, I think at one point I became aware years ago that you're an Air Force veteran.
Army.
Army, I'm sorry, forgive me. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do for the veterans and other members of the community. And I wish you a happy Veterans Day. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Madam Chair, with your permission, as I've done in the past, I have a small token. I've had the pleasure of working with this town council for 25 plus years. And each year, when I approach you at budget time, or if I should happen to approach this council because I'm lacking funds for veterans benefits, this council has always been fully supportive of my department. So with your permission, I'd like to hand a small token to each one of the council members.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Thank you, and thank you for your service.
I was going to say, I should probably.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Waiting for the camera to not be on me.
Fashion style, but it's a hot style. Could be a little warm. The things we do.
All right. All right, moving on to agenda item number 8, Citizens Forum. I'll ask if there's anyone who would like to say anything this evening. Just come up to the podium, give us your name, address, and you'll get 5 minutes to speak. Anyone at all? I don't see anybody, so we will move on. Agenda item number 9 is vote to confirm the reappointment of Jamie Opwell as the auxiliary police officer for the town of Southbridge for a 3-year term effective immediately through June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
I just want to make a note from the chief that this is a reappointment that was left off, and so the comment is that it's not a new position, it is a reappointment. He's been with us for a few years, and that the chief is not able to be here this evening to let us know this, but just wanted to make sure that we understood who this person was and why it wasn't necessary to go to subcommittee. Because when we do the reappointments for auxiliary, we generally just bring them up to council. Okay. Any questions, discussion? None? All in favor, hand vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Agenda item number 10, vote to approve in accordance with MGL Chapter 40, Section 5B, to establish a stabilization fund within the Water Enterprise Fund for the purpose of appropriating and accounting for the town of Southbridge share of annual certified retained earnings.
So moved.
Second.
Now, this requires a 2/3 vote to pass. Councilor Steves?
That was the first item on our agenda for GenGov on Thursday, so I'll read it here. Karen Harnoy and Heather Blakely said that this is an effort to work out a deal with Charlton to clarify how much they get from each year's water retained earnings under the IMA and to avoid a court case. For some time, they've been trying to claim a share of everything in the account, which is about $3 million, including what was there from before the IMA began, to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the IMA grants them only a share of each year's certified earnings. The exact percentage varies from 8 to 13%. They said that this solution mirrors what Charlton already does with its own sewer retained earnings, and Southbridge hasn't yet paid Charlton for its share for FY16. After we pay Charlton's annual share, we take whatever's left in the retained earnings account and transfer it into this new stabilization fund, zeroing out the retained earnings account, which would then refill with the next year's payments. Funds in stabilization are still usable by a 2/3 council vote. The ultimate goal, which is probably from a few years hence, is to revise the IMA to make Charlton's water system a consecutive system. If that happens, Southbridge would simply send Charlton one bill for all of their water, and Charlton would handle individual customers, delinquencies, and et cetera. Right now, we bill customers individually. They noted such a change requires DEP approval, but something that it seems all three entities want, although it'll take some negotiation to do. And Councillor Nash moved to recommend that we establish it, and Mr. Catrona seconded it, and it was passed unanimously.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we're going to do roll call on this next. Oops, sorry, excuse me. We have someone from the audience.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Dave Smick, 145 Ridge Road. Did I just hear in the recap that if this section of state law is established, that the town would be able to take money from the enterprise fund and put it in a stabilization account? Is that what I understand?
That's what I understood.
Within,
Yeah, she is.
it was, the understanding I had is within the sewer, in the water enterprise fund. So it's a stabilization account that is within
Yeah.
it. It's not outside of it. It's not.
We won't have it directly. It's not a general fund.
Okay, because in the creation originally of the stabilization, the enterprise funds, it was the intent that it would make the department self-sufficient.
Right.
That it would not rely on the general funds.
Right.
And so they were set up, the enterprise funds were set up for the operation, maintenance, and management of each enterprise. And hopefully, in the long run, that it would also stabilize the sewer the user rates, whether it was water or sewer. And it was the intent that any profits, let's say any given year, there was an increase in revenue versus expenses, that money would be turned back into the account to push the rates down and stabilize so you didn't have a constant raising of the rates. And I just fear that we're getting away from that. If the intent is still, to do that, that's fine. But even back years ago under when I think it was Mr. Carlisle was town manager, they devised a method that was okay with the state, that the municipal side could charge back this, to the enterprise funds some monies. The enterprise funds weren't designed to be cash cows for the town.
Right.
Now, for example, I think back then they established, I think the town manager spent, let's say 20% of his time to water. They would charge back 20% of his salary to the enterprise fund.
Right.
Now, that was not the intent. And I just want to make sure that any of those monies or excess revenue, other than if, I don't know what they're doing within the enterprise funds for, let's say, capital improvements down the road. I don't know if there's a separate line item that each year set amount of money is set in case, let's say, you have to change a pumping station, where that money's going to come from. But other than that, any excess money should be used to push those rates back down again. And I just want to make sure that that happens, and that was the point of my question.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to? Okay,
Sure,
yeah,
just-
that's
you're
pretty clear. And then I'll let you.
100% correct.
Yes.
And the money's staying within the enterprise fund completely. All it really is a separate new account that adds clarity to the retained earnings. But everything you said is correct, and no money goes to the general fund. It all stays within the enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Clare?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, just with that, I mean, I was also wondering, my interpretation of this was that it was to more insulate the town and not really change any kind of processes that we already do in the rates and everything in the
Right.
enterprise fund.
Again, the way it's, I know Councilor Steve's read the minutes. So when the IMA was formed, there was a small amount that was supposed to be given to Charlton at the end of each year based on that year's retained earnings. Charlton started to look at our piggy bank, so to speak, our whole enterprise fund, which our ratepayers have been putting into for years and years. Then we use that for all those capital projects, very expensive, multi-million-dollar capital projects. Suddenly, they wanted us to pay them on all those retained earnings. Their percentage was going to come off of that big pie when they were only supposed to be getting retained earnings. That was negotiated. I remember Councilor Carrasco was at that meeting too. It was a percentage based on each year. Well, they are differing as to how that calculation has come about. How come we're only getting this much and not more? And by doing a separate fund within the existing fund, each year, those funds, only from that year, will go into there, and we'll be able to say, here's the percentage, here's the exact amount that was retained that year, here's all you're getting, and it will insulate the town. And they've come to agreement on that is a good process. Now, the only restriction, as we talked about, that can do is once it goes into a stabilization fund, it then requires a vote out to do a capital project. But obviously, if there's a capital project that needs to get done, then the future council would vote to remove that money to put into a water capital project. So we didn't see that as being an issue. As a matter of fact, it's almost a double safeguard, because now it gives the community a bigger chance to come up and question that spending. So in some ways, it makes the council even more accountable for how that money is spent.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Roll call.
Councilor Morales?
Yes.
Councilor Nash?
Yes.
Councilor Steves?
Yes.
Councilor Eau Claire?
Yes.
Councilor Carrasco?
Yes.
Councilor Clements?
Yes.
Councilor Manna?
Yes.
7 yes.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, agenda item number 11, vote to approve the payment of past due Unified Life Voluntary Life Insurance charge in the amount of $394.20.
So moved.
Second.
Councilor Steves.
That was also on the agenda. This one was real brief. The issue is that simply that the town found that we had somehow inadvertently missed a bill back in 2013. And so when it came forward, it just basically needed to be paid. And the way the law is written, since it's such an old bill, we can't just do it directly, so we have to come back and vote on it.
Any questions? Okay, we'll do a hand vote on this. All those in favor? It's unanimous, motion carries. Agenda item 12, vote to ratify repairs to Chapin Court, a private way, in the amount not to exceed $500 in accordance with the Town Bylaw, Chapter 8, Section 102.
Second.
Councilor Steves.
That was the DPW agenda. And that was just simply, Heather said that the street residents have filed their petition with enough signatures to qualify. The plan is to make several small patches and repair holes up to the $500 limit that we have in our bylaws, and we need to do it quickly before winter sets in. So we, let's see, I was the one who seconded it, and Councilor Nass made the motion, and it passed unanimously.
Any questions on this or how this works? All right, all those in favor? It's unanimous, motion passes. Agenda item 13, vote to ratify the table of snow plow and snow removal contractors for the winter season of 2017-2018.
Second.
Counselor Steves.
That was also DPW. Heather said that the current list, which at the moment just has 6 contractors on it, is extremely small and extremely troubling, but she wanted to get it approved just in case we get snow early. She expects several others to submit bids in the near future, and we'll bring them forward later. Plowing isn't a typical bid process, though. We publish the amounts we pay, and they submit the letters of acceptance and various other documentation. After last year, though, we lost several plow contractors because of our insurer, Maya, who requested that we increase how much insurance we require them to have to $1 million. Several smaller drivers, which are typically non-commercial ones with pickup trucks, backed out for that reason. Some others opted out because we've started trying to plow as much as possible in-house and aren't calling them for every storm. That might pose an issue this year since we'll be plowing a couple of extra subdivisions and each storm will take longer. So if you're waiting, she wanted to remind you, if you are waiting for plows, just remember they will get there. It just might take a little bit longer. That's unfortunately the way New England winters work. Don't like it, but it'll happen. Anyway, I made the motion to recommend it. Councilor Nash seconded, and it was unanimous.
Any discussion? Counselor Carrasco.
Yes, my only request, I know that several years ago we had markers on the vehicles. If we can reinstate that policy so we know who's actually plowing our streets.
Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Motion passes. Oops.
I just want
Director?
to point out again that we really are still looking for drivers, so that if anybody's interested, to please call the town manager's office and speak to Yvonne to get the packages and turn in the information, that we're still accepting drivers, and we really do need more drivers. In addition, we actually have a position open for temporary drivers that drive our vehicles. So if they're interested in that, they can also apply through the town manager's office for that position too.
Thank you for pointing that out. We were supposed to mention it.
I forgot that.
Okay. Yeah. 2 of us. Okay. Agenda item number 14, vote to ratify the contract with Woodward and Curran for SCADA in the amount of $77,000 for the engineering, design, and implementation services for SCADA system upgrades at Roosevelt Trailside and Tiller Ave Water Pump Station.
So moved.
Second. I'm going to pass this on to Councilor Nash since he understands the issue much better than I do. So. I gave it to him, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Steves. Madam Chair, through you. Before we proceed, I would just like to note that the agenda misspells Woodard. There is no W after the D in Woodard. It's W-O-O-D-A-R-D, Woodard and Curran. And that is substantiated by the documentation. I'll make a quick note to read through the minutes per Councilor Steves' request. Councilor Nash noted during the item number 5 on the DPW Joint Town Council meeting minutes here, that this is really for consulting services, not construction, despite a misprint on the agenda. I talked about my experience in the field, knowing Woodard and Curran and the other listed contractors, and praised Woodard and Curran as the best choice on the list with lots of experience. DPW Director Ms. Blakely agreed, noting very few firms are capable of doing this level of work, although we have been trying to diversify the ones we work with. With Woodard and Curran, quote unquote, we'll get the right equipment and they'll fix it if it doesn't work, end quote. And to that I'll stipulate. Ms. Harnoy said engineering services are exempt from state bidding laws, and Mr. Steve Gregoire, operations manager, I believe, of the water department, noted the funds for this project have already been encumbered, so it won't affect this year's budget. I moved to recommend the council ratify the contract with Woodard and Curran in the amount of $77,000 for the engineering, design, bidding, and implementation services for the SCADA system upgrades at Roosevelt, Trailside, and Tiller Avenue water pump stations. Councilor Steves seconded, and it passed 3-0. So that's unanimous of all that were present. What's more, Madam Chair, if I may, I know that we had a memo about some of the corrections, so I want to make sure we read the motion correctly if we need to. I don't know if we did that. I'm sorry. I wasn't paying that much attention.
I think we do need to correct it.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame. The original one, and we did a correction on it, but it's not in here. The original one had the word building in it, and it was supposed to be bidding. And as I read through, it says engineering, design, and implementation. It should say design, bidding, and implementation. implementation.
Right.
You want to read it off right here? I believe
Water
this
pump
has the-
station.
Well, no, but this is how I just read it, and it got motioned, so.
Okay, you're right.
Pump stations, there's more than one.
Yep. So if we could, I guess, do a
Well, you
quick,
made the motion, so I'll second a friendly amendment. I don't think we need to vote on it if he moves to.
Did I make the motion?
You made the motion.
Okay, I'm happy to rescind.
Okay.
okay. So let's be clear. Vote to ratify the contract with Woodard and Curran for SCADA in the amount of $77,000 for the engineering, design, bidding, and implementation services for SCADA system upgrades at Roosevelt Trailside and Tillier Ave water pump stations with the S, right?
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. More discussion? Councillor Eau Claire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I think that I didn't realize that the building was supposed to be bidding before this.
It's on the
So I think I have a lot more questions than I did before. So this 77,000 is just for the engineering and design, pretty much, for these upgrades. I'm assuming this went out for RFP, for a request for proposals. What's the total cost, and was it included in the capital budget items? That would go to either Ron or Heather.
Okay, so we can have the director come back up, but I can tell you that this company will handle these parts of getting this job done. So they will handle, I know it's a building, it's bidding. They will actually handle the bidding process, the design, the engineering, the implementation services.
Right,
That's their service for 77.
Bidding and building are two
Right,
very
exactly.
different
This
words.
is a whole different, right, so.
Right,
it's-
so
it-
when I'm reading this and I,
And it was in the memo, this memo that everybody got, the email that I asked about, it was changed,
I
okay?
think that as I was skimming that email, I didn't realize the change from.
In that word.
I didn't realize the change in that word.
Understood. Director Blakely, I say Council, but
Yeah.
Director Blakely's here, she can answer that comment about the process.
Your question is about whether the cost of actually building the equipment that they're going to put the design together was included, or is in our capital plan? It is in our capital plan for one of the stations. The other designs will be able to go out to bid because we'll have them right off the shelf sequentially after that. So this is kind of getting us ready to be able to put this equipment in. We have actually run into problems in these stations because the instrumentation in them is so old that it's not serviceable anymore. So we've been kind of putting Band-Aids on it to keep the systems running, and we've had some operational issues, so we need to move these projects forward. It is a major design. It's a complicated process. For the 3 stations, they're very similar, but you have to have the package all there. And so once it's out to bid, then they do the programming. That's the implementation side. Once they get the equipment in, then they program it. They won't actually build it because they're not allowed to. They have to put it out to bid. The actual equipment is modestly cheaper, under like $50,000, but all the engineering that goes with it is the complicated side.
Okay, so we'll be ratifying this contract for the 77,000. They'll be doing everything except for the actual physical portion,
Correct.
which is the less
It's
expensive portion.
Right, it's basically a new control panel with controls in it, electronic controls for the pumps, and then that also has the capability of calling back to our SCADA system at the plant so that we can monitor it remotely and have that control capability. Right now, we do not have that capability.
Okay.
We just have one general alarm. We can't see what's happening.
And I feel bad because I should have done more research on this. Is this like an industry norm as far as the pricing goes? Did we get more than one bid?
We did get more than one bid. It wasn't for a complete package. It was only, they couldn't do the implementation side of it, and they didn't bid on those things. They didn't bid on the bidding, the implementation. It was only for design services. So we discounted that. We tried to get another bid, and the other company wouldn't even bid on it. So it's highly selective. Woodward does most of our work at the water plant now. They know our programming. There's a level of comfort there for us, so we felt very good about going with them.
What was the other bid?
The other bid was $23,000, but it was only for engineering. It didn't include the implementation or the bidding, and we wouldn't have been as comfortable. We've kind of walked down this path before, and we said they weren't comfortable doing any of the programming, so we would have had to hire Woodward to do all the programming, which is that implementation part of it.
I mean, would you expect there to be a cost savings?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Steves.
Heather, I was thinking, while she was asking a question, I was curious. So when these 3 stations are done, do we have any other pump stations that are going to need similar work going forward?
Our other existing pump stations are actually already tied into SCADA,
Okay.
so we're in good shape there. Being Mass Ave, Commercial Drive, they're already tied in. So we're in good shape from that side.
Okay. Good.
Along with our tanks, they're all tied in.
Okay. So this is the last, SCADA.
These are the smaller 3 pump stations that service particular areas that have their own little high-pressure zones. They work off of a pump in a hydraulic tank, and the pumps pump them up, and then the tanks. But if those, right now, it's the old controls are about 20 to 25-year-old pump station. The old controls, which are old technology, aren't supported anymore, so you can't even get the parts and pieces to fix them.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
I'm sorry, Heather, and I apologize. I probably should notice I didn't ask you the question. I'm just curious. Do you see that the construction is going to be an ITB or an RFP?
It's probably going to be an RFP. We'll have to get some estimates once we get the design done of exactly what the costs are going to be, but until we get to that point, I'm not really sure yet.
Thank you. I was just curious. That's what I'm talking about.
Counselor
And a
Steves.
follow-up question with that, actually. So once we get to that RFP process, do you have an idea when that's likely to be? Are you thinking next spring, next summer?
Yeah, we're hoping to be able to get this done over the winter and then be out for bids next spring.
Cool.
Okay. Is that on this one? Anybody else? Yeah. All those in favor? Unanimous. Motion passes. Agenda item 15, vote to adopt the model designer selection procedures for municipal buildings for the town of Southbridge according to Mass General Law, Chapter 7C, Sections 44 through 57.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Counselor Steves.
That was also on GenGov, and we actually ended up having to add that after Councilor Clance and I talked about it. After Councilor Nash and I had gone to the Fire Station Building Committee meeting the night before, where they were talking about it and they had voted on the proposal, and there were some concerns over the way our bylaws were written and the way the state law was set up, and the way the original text of the state's version of these proposed the model designer selection procedures that the state proposes uses certain phrasing that ours didn't use. So we wanted to prevent a little confusion there by just making sure that the process was done right, basically. I'll read the way the minutes were read here. Okay. I and Councilor Clements noted that we had spoken about this earlier in the day and agreed to add this to the agenda on the grounds that we didn't know we'd have to address this issue before last night's meeting. By last night, I meant the Fire Station Building Committee meeting. I summarized the most recent Fire Station Building Committee meeting, which voted to accept these procedures at the time. State law requires them to be accepted by the town to cover all municipal projects before the Fire Station Building Committee or any other building committee can advertise the request for qualifications they've been drafting for whatever their project is. But our bylaws call for a municipal building committee, which doesn't now exist. Councilor Clements noted that the way the state phrased its model designer selection procedure and the way our text is phrased are somewhat different, creating some confusion over who has what roles, and because our version has MBC, where the state has both approving body and awarding authority, and defines the former as either selectman or council. To address that uncertainty, Heather Blakely actually proposed rephrasing the first part of our version's item number 2, which I will read when I get to the end of it, to begin to read, the town council shall act as the municipal building committee, MBC, until such time as an MBC is established. The MBC has the authority to conduct the designer selection process for the town of Southbridge in accordance with Town Bylaw 3-2. The MBC may delegate any duties described herein to the extent such delegation is permissible by law. Oh, okay. I thought we had put that at the beginning, but she stuck it at the end.
That's
Okay.
where they stuck it.
Okay. As long as it's in there, I don't care where it is. Anyway, everyone present agreed that our intent is to have the Fire Station Building Committee continue its oversight of this project as a whole, because, we don't want to do it, including serving as the selection committee under these procedures. But Councilor Clements noted that that FSBC members were never asked to serve as a broader municipal building committee and deal with other projects that might come down the road and might not want to. So that's an issue that we'll have to appoint a municipal building committee or get it out of the bylaws entirely. We haven't decided what we're going to do with that one. But anyway, Councilor Nass moved to recommend that we make the change. Mr. Catrona seconded it, and it passed unanimously.
Okay, so I'm going to clarify just one thing because you were confused when you were reading that too.
Well, that's the way
we have I know, we have the designer selection procedures and the municipal building authority, municipal building committee has the authority to conduct the designer selection process for the town of Southbridge in accordance with the town bylaw 3204. The MBC, Municipal Building Committee, may delegate any duties described herein to the extent such delegation is permissible. And then we added, town council shall act as MBC until such time as MBC is established. So, and we spoke with the building committee. We spoke with Jack Jovan, who's chair. We spoke, Chief DeFranzo this has been discussed with, and all in agreement that we are accepting procedures for the entire town, and therefore we need to make sure that they're in accordance with everything that we were told to do. So, any questions? Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I do apologize. I missed that meeting. Thank you. I am taking it was because there was a meeting of the committee that was supposed to take place is why this was added to the agenda item for the general government?
It was actually, Rick and I had gone to the Fire Station Building Committee the night before, which is that Wednesday. And then we were there and we were talking about it, and we called Denise out from outside of the meeting to talk about what was going on and try to, because there was a little concern and a little confusion about the way things were phrased and who had what authority to do what. And I guess there had been some talk going on about the fact that our bylaws require the Municipal Building Committee to exist, but we have never had one that I'm aware of. Right. I don't know if anybody else has been aware of one. But
I understood your explanation when you were talking about it, and you and Councilor Clements. My question is, this was added to the agenda item, so I'm just assuming because there was a meeting that already planned for the fire department committee.
And to clarify that, yes, it came up from that meeting, but also the fact that we need to approve these things. They need to be approved basically either by the MBC or in this case by us before they can put their request proposals out for advertisement.
Okay.
Otherwise, and that was planned. That's on the agenda for when was it?
Well, I was just trying to define the emergency.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So they were planning.
I just wanted to make it clear.
Yeah, we wouldn't be having another council meeting before they do it. They're planning on doing it on November 15th, where they're going to finalize their RFQs and the contract with the intent to publish it on November 22nd.
Right.
We would have had a meeting the 20th, but they wouldn't have been able to basically do anything in that time frame.
So no, yeah. I understand. I just, for the clarity out there.
Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. All set now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Yes, so Councilor Manna, when Councilor Steve brought this up, we felt that it was something that was not anticipated and therefore was put on the agenda. And for the audience, the agenda was revised and reposted immediately on Thursday morning when that was determined, and therefore complied with the open meeting laws.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thursday afternoon, but about a couple hours before the meeting started.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this information? Seeing none. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Motion passes. Agenda item number 16 pertains to the landfill bylaw that we have been working on for the past few months. This will be the third and final reading. 10-300.1 Statement of Intent would read, under Massachusetts Constitution, Article 97, all residents of Massachusetts have a right to clean air and water, freedom from unnecessary noise, and natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic qualities of their environment," end quote. In pursuance of that right, over many years, the voters of Southbridge have indicated their disapproval of landfill filling in our community as follows. A, on June 13, 2017, the citizens of Southbridge voted overwhelmingly 1,303 to 852 in opposition to question 1, stating clear opposition to negotiating any expansion of the town-owned landfill. And B, on June 4, 1999, the citizens of Southbridge, by a vote of 1,952 to 715 on question 2, strongly opposed the concept of contracting management of the landfill to an outside corporate interest, but a subsequent council disregarded that vote and approved such a contract in 2007. Section 10-300.2, the statement of the bylaw. A, no town official, council, or other body shall authorize the use of town-owned land for purpose of establishing a landfill beyond that which is already authorized and available for such purposes within the town of Southbridge unless approved by a majority of Southbridge voters at a ballot vote. And B, the town of Southbridge strongly encourages any party seeking any future landfill on privately owned land seek approval by a majority of Southbridge voters at a ballot vote. And that is the third and final reading. Comments, Councilor O'Clair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, it was actually, I don't know if there's any other comments on that, but I wanted to move to postpone agenda item number 17, so should I wait?
Yes, I think you should wait until we have comments. Okay, comments on the bylaw, on the proposed bylaw. Oh, sorry, Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I just want to express once again, I know this is only the reading. However, under 10-300.2, item B, I do not support that. I don't believe that that should be any part of a bylaw. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, more discussion on the proposed bylaw. Mr. Smick?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, for the record, Dave Smick, 145 Ridge Road. Shortly after the election, this last election, the first general government subcommittee meeting held in that room was regarding this matter. And I don't think there was anybody in the room that was opposed to the underlying amendment. I supported it then, and I still support it. What I'm having a problem with is 10-300.1, the statement of intent. It can be interpreted that it's the rationale for the amendment, for the bylaw amendment, but the way it's written, and it appears that it's a historical statement. And the problem when it's written like this, that historical statement could be subject to debate and accuracy. Now, here is town bylaws, zoning regulations, subdivision regulations, personnel rules and regs, and the charter. No place does any of our bylaws start off with a preamble of intent or rationale for the amendment. The record for the rationale of passing or denying any action is these minutes of this meeting. That's the official record, not in the bylaw itself. Now, because in fact, that on the landfill, at the election, the referendum question, without argument, was a non-binding advisory opinion poll. That's what it was. I don't see that written in the statement of intent or even the appearance of historically what happened and the rationale for the bylaw. And I'm in favor of the bylaw. I just don't agree that 10300.1 should be part of the bylaw. Obviously, it should be listed in the council's minutes as the rationale. If someone wants to support it, that's the rationale for your support.
That's not what you're doing.
And then the second part of it is on 10300.2B. The town of Southbridge strongly encourages. I'm looking at it, I'm saying, what the heck is this? Our rules, our bylaws, are rules and regulations. They're not advisory opinions. There's no room for strongly encourages anything. You don't see that word connected. Let's use the sidewalk bylaw, for example, that within 48 hours you got to have the snow off. Doesn't say after that. Town of Southbridge strongly encourages that within 48 hours you get the snow off. That's not. Has no room in our bylaws and in our regulations. And it still doesn't affect the underlying amendment. Same thing with, if I want to use the sidewalk analogy again for 10300.1. You don't see any bylaw that says, you know, if the snow's not off the sidewalks in 48 hours, kids walking to school can't walk on the sidewalks. They're going to have to walk in the street, which is going to create a safety problem, and we could have major emergency problems. You don't see that kind of language in our bylaws. It has no place for it. So again, I would recommend to council that under the adoption, that you delete 10300.1, and under 10300.2, delete B. And has no effect on the effect of the bylaw, which I do support. And there's just no room for that. And you would be establishing a precedent because you don't see that any place in our regulations. Thank you.
More discussion? Comments? Nothing up here?
My name is Mike Marchetti, 120 Marie Avenue, Southbridge resident. Can you hear me? I have a very soft voice. I don't see anything wrong with the wording in any of this bylaw, and I'm glad it was brought forward. I think that we owe a great debt of gratitude to Councilor Auclair for leading the group that fought against the landfill referendum, and which the residents of Southbridge voted overwhelmingly to defeat. I also wanted to thank Councilor Steve Nash for getting this on the agenda in their general government, and Councilor Carrasco for supporting us all the way. I'm sad to see that Councilor McKenzie's not here tonight, because I'm pretty sure he supported this as well. But as far as the statement of intent goes, that is Massachusetts. That is in the Massachusetts Constitution, so I don't see what's wrong with using language from the Massachusetts Constitution. A and B are statements of facts. I don't see anything wrong with that. Maybe that should be in the snow cleanup bylaw, that residents have a right to clean sidewalks when it's snowing out. As far as the statement of bylaw part B, that's because that the town strongly encourages any party seeking future landfill on privately owned land. That's because the town manager, through the attorneys, convinced us that only the Board of Health and Mass DEP can decide if a landfill can be developed on private land. But it was their opinion that the residents have a right to decide on public land. You all know that, so I don't really have to repeat it. But personally, I don't see anything wrong if that's the only sticking point, Part B. I wouldn't have a problem with that coming out. But if that would mean that this would pass, then I would be, okay with it. Let's negotiate this. I don't see anything wrong with compromising. I think I've heard just about every counselor up here, with the possible exception of Counselor Morales, but the rest of you, I'm pretty sure I've heard every one of you say that you are opposed to landfill expansion outside the footprint. And I understood why, because we were legally bound by the contract to allow Casella to expand on the footprint, but you're no longer legally bound by that. They are closing the landfill, so if you don't want to see any more landfill expansion, all this is doing is giving us a right to vote on it. That's all it is. I mean, if you can convince people that it's in our best interest to expand, you still have an opportunity to do it. But, well, I just think that everyone should support this tonight. I don't see anything wrong with it. Like I said, it's just giving us an opportunity to vote on it. And I want to say something to the residents of Southbridge. Just stay strong, Southbridge, because we're going to get this done. We're going to change this town around. We're going to get things moving again, get businesses to come here, work on cleaning up this town, and work on our tourism, which I think could also be expanded. And we're going to win this eventually. Maybe not tonight, but we'll win it. Thank you.
Councilor Manna.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Thank you to the speakers. I'd like to thank Mr. Schmidt for pointing out and clarifying the verbiage in the opening, and he makes a lot of sense in what he says in regards to that. And when you read this, it does say under Massachusetts Constitution, Article 97, all residents of Massachusetts have a right to clean air. That's the first words, a right to clean air. Well, I guess I can make that argument as well and propose a new bylaw for marijuana, smoking. We have a right to clean air, but we cannot, some of us aren't afforded that clean air when we have to inhale that marijuana that our neighbors are smoking. The voters came out and they voted to prohibit the establishments of marijuana dispensaries and cultivation and whatnot. They voted against that. I suppose that we could.
Point of order.
What does it have to do with the subject?
So.
Okay, then I will respond if we could have a little parliamentary procedure up here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just trying to point out.
Thank you for bringing the point of order, Ms. Councilor Clare. Councilor Manna, I understand your point of clean air. So could we move on to what you want to deal with on the bylaw?
Yes. And I just would like to state that I do agree with Mr. Schmidt in regards to taking out B, it doesn't belong there, taking out the whole first, and 10-300.2 A that's the bylaw. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion on the reading? Or anybody want to make a motion on changing anything? That's what this is about. You do realize that.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
To take out section 10-300.1, the statement of intent, all of that, and under 10-300.2, the statement of the bylaw, taking out B and leaving A.
Is this your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I will second for the sake of discussion,
Okay. And we'll continue the discussion.
so we can debate it.
Okay. Anybody else want to debate whether or not they should both come out, one come out, none come out? No?
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of taking out, all those in favor of Council Manna's motion, which would be to eliminate 10-300.1 and B under 10-300.2? 2? All those opposed? Motion doesn't pass. Okay, so any other amendments or considerations on the bylaw? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on. Agenda item number 17 is vote to ratify the Statement of Intent, Chapter 10-300.1, and the Statement of Bylaw, Chapter 10-300.2, as written above and read first, 10/16/17, second, 10/30/17, and this third and final reading date of 11/6/17. It's not in there. Thank you. Thanks.
Madam Chair, before a motion's made for that, I would like to make a motion to postpone this agenda item to the next council meeting on November 20th, when we will have a full council present. I think that as far as the work that's been involved in this, there have been a lot of people involved over the course of the last 5 months now to make this what it is and to put it forth, and a lot of discussion has come across, so I'd like to see a whole council make that decision. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Discussion on that. Well, I will make a comment because that was brought up. I don't know in the 8 years that I've served that there are times you just don't have a full council and you just don't always get to vote on everything that comes up. So I'm opposed to changing it, but that's my business. That's my opinion. I just feel that you can't be guaranteed. You know, Councilor DePietro did not ask to postpone this because he wouldn't be here, but Councilor McKenzie did. And obviously he spoke with you. So, I mean, that is your option, but there is just never a guarantee on this council that all 9 will be here. As a matter of fact, for many years, we worked with 7 or 8 or less for months and months. So.
Just to respond to that really quick. I remember in my first year on the council under Chairman Moriarty that, you know, any vote that needed 2/3 of the entire council or bylaw votes, if there wasn't a full council present, at least 3 or 4 times I remember delays and postponements. This doesn't require a 2/3 vote, but it does require a majority of the council vote, which is a 5-vote majority to actually pass. And I think that it would be prudent, especially since we knew of Councilor McKenzie's absence tonight well in advance, that we postpone it until November 20th. Thank you.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion on the table to postpone this item until the next council meeting. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. We will postpone it until the next council meeting. Agenda item number 18, Councilors' Forum. We will start with Councilor Leclerc.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. What did I have? I just want to say thank you to all the police officers for keeping Halloween safe for the kiddos who went out trick-or-treating. It's great as a parent to, know that your child isn't going to be subject to any kind of, Halloween tomfoolery or cars going a little bit too fast or anything. Also, I was at the luncheon today up at the high school, and I just wanted to really quick express my gratitude for having Dr. Townsell up in that building, and all of the the boots on the ground, so to speak, the teachers, the people who go in every day and try to make a difference for our students and our children. Seeing the level of passion, seeing the level of enthusiasm, and also just I guess the leadership that's going on up there was really, really great to see today. I'm very impressed, and I'm very happy to say that if you go up there, there are really good things happening. And I think that that's actually all I have for tonight. So thanks.
Councilor Carrasco.
Yes, I just have one announcement, and I just want to express to the public that the Tri-Community Church Collaborative is going to be providing at least 375 turkey baskets with all the fixings this year for families in need. As you are aware, 3 years ago, Food Share, our local food pantry in Southbridge, decided to stop that service to the community, and there was 5 churches that came together from the tri-community area to put this endeavor. I am honored to be part of that group. There's going to be 2 registration dates, which are this week, Thursday, November 9th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., and also Saturday, November 11th, from 9 in the morning till 12 p.m., and that's going to be located at the M. Pauline Outreach Center at 45 Charlton Street. So if you know of any families that are in need, please let them know. Our goal is to give out 375 turkeys plus all the fixings at no cost. There is just registration where we're going to be working with other organizations in the area to make sure that we're not giving out multiple baskets to one home. So we're going to cross-reference the list. So we want to make sure that that's happening. And then distribution for those turkey baskets will be on the 18th of November from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the same location. That's all I have.
Council Morales.
I'm all set, thank you.
Council Manna.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Just a couple things. I'd like to apologize for missing the general government meeting. I feel very badly about that. And also, I'd like to apologize in regards to discussion on the proposed bylaw and going off track. Sometimes we get very passionate about these things and some things that we truly believe in, but I think that is worthy of discussion if we're going to have something such as this being proposed. We do have a right to clean air, and a discussion in regards to what are we going to do about the new marijuana law and my right to clean air, just like everybody else's right to clean air when it comes to the landfill. I don't appreciate having to inhale marijuana smoke. I don't want my kids inhaling it. I have to close my windows on very nice days. So the marijuana smoke that neighbors use doesn't come into my home. And, so I think it's worthy of discussion. If we're going to propose a right to clean air, then we should come up with this discussion. Council Clements stated at a PPP meeting that there is nothing that, the police department can do in regards to that. And it's very unfortunate because, your right to clean air, my right to clean air, we all have a different opinion on what clean air is. And, the Constitution does state that we have a right to clean air. And with this bylaw being passed, this law being passed in regards to marijuana, my right's being taken away. I can't even open my windows for fresh air half the time anymore. So I think it's a discussion worthy of having, and I think that goes on general government. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Trombley for all he does with our veterans in town. Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to our country. I'd like to thank all the veterans who served. Thank you. I know Veterans Day, you're recognized one day a year, like nationally, but every day I recognize our veterans. They do so much for us. And I believe that is all. Thank you.
Councilor Nash.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. First, I'd like to apologize to Councilor Manna because I've known her reputation for many years and she doesn't miss meetings. I should have given her the courtesy of reaching out to remind her because I think I just made the assumption that you were excusing yourself. So I know you don't miss meetings, and I'll leave that one alone. I'd also like to extend my compliments to Mr. Trombley and also to Councilor Clements for the very good, kind, and appropriate words in regards to the upcoming Veterans Day holiday. I think everyone up here knows how I feel about the military and military families and in general, especially the families. Someone very close to me is my hero, and that person is a 15-time deployed military veteran. And one thing that I'll remind the general public is that these are very unique times. Just like World War II, a large part of our military veterans were voluntary. They were volunteers. Today, our military is made up almost entirely of a volunteer force. Let's not forget that. I'd also like to thank Dr. Townsell, the principal of the Southbridge High School, Mr. Danby, the vice principal, and all of the faculty for having us there today. I was very happy to be joined by the town manager for a short while and Councilor Auclair. I know that Councilor Morales wasn't able to make it due to a work obligation, but tough time to make, so I do appreciate the support from the councilors that were able to make it, just to show the teachers that we're paying attention, and we recognize their effort and the hard work and the successes that they're having. In that same vein, I want to point out that the high school students are having a couple of fundraisers, and I shared this on one of my Facebook posts, but there are bottles and tumblers for sale. You can contact any member of the class of 2019. You can contact Mr. Hatch at the high school, or you can call the office. And I did not bring the picture, but there were some nice stainless steel vacuum-style mugs and water bottles and things of that nature. Also, Southbridge PTA is hosting, or has a group outing to the Worcester Railers hockey event, or hockey game on Sunday, November 19th at 3:05. It's a Sunday afternoon, and I'm a hockey aficionado, so I was sold quite easily. I know that if anyone's interested, today was technically the deadline, but I'm dropping off my check tomorrow to one of the elementary schools. Again, the game is on Sunday, November 19th. You can contact Laura Dumas. If you want the email address, I'm sure it's on one of the threads on Facebook, or feel free to reach out to me. I'll pass it right along. Last thing that I'll share tonight is just a reminder that the Board of Health has accepted final regulations in regards to solid waste. They voted to accept at a meeting, I think about a week or week and a half ago, and these will be signed on November 30th. They affect everybody, so if you haven't read them, please go see them on the town's website, Health Department page on our site, over on the right under News, and they are in Microsoft Word form if I'm not mistaken. But please pay attention. If you have questions, I've tried to answer the simple ones that are in black and white before I direct people over to the Health Department, but you really do need to reach out to the Health Department for clarification. And in that same vein, at some point, I think we'll need to recognize that we'll have a conflict between the Board of Health regulations and the bylaws that we currently have, so I'm sure we'll want to undertake a conversation about that with the inspections director. And with that, thank you all so much for the Veterans Day talk tonight. Mr. Trombley, thank you for coming and presenting, and I apologize for calling you Air Force. I know there's a distinction. Thank everybody. Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
Councilor Steves?
Yeah, I have a couple of quick things. And actually, you're mentioning the solid waste drags made me think of one of them. Is that I know that some people in town have been getting extra toters from the most recent redistribution of the various solid trash toters there. If you did get an extra one, because I know that previously many people had signed up and gotten them voluntarily, say over the course of the last year or two, and then when they went around in the last couple of weeks, they started distributing them to a bunch of people, and there was a fair amount of duplication, because I know we got an extra one. If you did get one, contact the Board of Health's contact the health office and talk to Andy, because he is creating a list of people to go get them from and take them back, because, I mean, nobody needs two of them. So just thought I'd let you know about that. And also, I had the pleasure of being over at the Veterans Lunch that Mike Trombley talked about a few minutes ago, over at the hotel this afternoon. I stopped in for the first 20 minutes or so, and it was nice to see them, our veterans honored that way. A lot of them there seem to be mostly World War II vets. But it doesn't matter where you're from as long as you've served. And I just want to say that, although I personally have never been in uniform, I have a lot of respect for those who have been. My dad was one, my grandfather was one, my grandmother was one. So you may not necessarily support the politics that get us into the wars, but the people who are in uniform deserve all of our support. And I just wanted to say that. And also, I had one question for the town manager. According to our approval of your goals and objectives, we had one of the things that was supposed to come up for October 31st was a report on town properties. Where is that?
Excuse me. Right now, I know that the town assessor is working on that project. He has not given me a report yet. I was off Thursday and Friday, as you know. Mm-hmm. So I will check with him tomorrow, and I will let you know exactly where that's at.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. So before we conclude with Councillor Steves telling us our next meeting date, I would like to take a moment of silence for all those who are affected down in Texas and the horrible situation that happened over the weekend. So if we could, at this time, just reflect on their families and their loss and how fortunate we are here this evening to be together, and keep them in your prayers, and all those with all the things that are happening out in our country. Just take a moment now. Thank you. Okay, so having said that, Councillor Steves?
The next council meeting will be Monday, November 20th, 2017, at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers.
Motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Hands? Unanimous.